not when it's peaking, not when it's at the top. Like Bitcoin, it was at the top, 60,000, 80,000. That's not when you buy, guys. You buy under 40,000. You buy under 35,000 Bitcoin. You buy when it's low, and that's the thing right now with AMD is it bounced off of these very nice low numbers. And that's what you guys want to be looking for when you're looking for an investment like AMD. It's been hitting this trend line, and now it's looking to go back up, guys. So I'm going to share with you a really cool software that I use day to day. It's called Mometic for momentum, Mometic, Momo. And it's a paid software, but I'm going to share my screen, guys. And I want to talk to you guys about this software and how I use it and how I leverage the software to look at the VWAP. If you guys don't know VWAP, VWAP is if a stock is riding on top of the VWAP, where is it? And then it also tells me the momentum of a stock. So what I like to do is I'll share with you my strategy here in a moment is I like to look at sectors that are trending. The technology sector is trending. AMD is trending, right? The PayPal stuff is trending. Especially the Twitter stuff, which is in the same industry, guys, like business services. And that's what we're going to be talking about is in these industries, guys, you have a lot of stocks that are very low that are ready for a pull up, are ready for a bullish pattern up. So I want to talk to you guys today about these patterns and what to look for, guys, because you're looking for a reverse. And what you saw.
And then in terms of the longer term, data center picture, we are incredibly excited about the opportunity in data center. When you look at the pieces we have now, I mean, the CPU franchise is very strong, continuing to get stronger. We're excited with how Genoa looks and how Bergamo looks and sort of the engagements with customers there. We're excited about the GPU portfolio as well. GPUs for us are a longer term, sort of roadmap similar to what we did on the CPU side. We had been more focused on, let's call it supercomputing and HPC. So that was strong for us last year, and that's why we're flattish year on year. We're very engaged on the AI front now, continuing our investments in our software stack and working with cloud guys to optimize our software stack. And then moving on to FPGAs, and then also our adaptive SoCs, and then the Pensando acquisition. I think what we now have is just an incredibly strong portfolio when we're dealing with, whether you're talking about the largest cloud hyperscalers or you're talking about enterprise. And then with Pensando and Xilinx, it also gives us exposure to the edge as well. And so between, we have all the compute engines and are able to optimize that. So I think you should expect to hear a lot more from us in the data center, certainly at our financial analyst day, but really strong opportunities there. Maybe Victor, you want to add on something?
Yeah, I think you covered well. The only thing I would add is just, again, I think not only do we have a really broad portfolio of all the compute engines, but we're doubling down on the networking side, right? Since we had strength in that and SmartNIC and strength. Then with Pensando, the kind of solutions that we could provide to customers in the overall infrastructure, right? It's not about point things, it's about the total solution. And as you probably know, scale out and just a lot of these applications, you could be throttled by the network. So we really can optimize all of it. And the customers really want optimized, customized solutions. And I think that's what we could do with both the former Xilinx SmartNIC as well as Pensando, even going further.
Thank you for all the details.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is coming from Vivek Arya from Bank of America. Your line is now live.
Thanks for taking my question. Lisa, my first one is on the server market. Milan helped you take and continues to help take a lot of share in the market. I'm curious, what's the state of play in front of the next gen Genoa versus the Sapphire Rapids server cycle from two perspectives? First, just from the industry adoption of DDR5, can that be a bottleneck to adoption of these next generation servers? And second perspective is that you will have two different flavors of Genoa with the cloud optimized version coming later. So just give us your sense of how this next generation cycle plays out versus the very strong success you had with Milan so far.
Yeah, absolutely, Vivek. So, the way to think about it is the data center market, and particularly in servers, people are getting much more optimized for workloads, and so there are different flavors, and we see that even in Milan today with Milan and our Milan X, X3D, sort of the X3D we introduced. And so I think it's natural for these solutions to sit side by side. I think as you go into, Genoa, the next generation platform, we would expect, again, the adoption. There's a lot of excitement on Genoa, and there's a lot of customer demand for Genoa. I do expect that Genoa will sit, again, side by side with Milan for quite some time because, you're not going to move the infrastructure instantaneously over. And then when you think about Bergamo, which is the cloud optimized, I think that will be more specific for specific large hyperscalers who have the need for, let's call it a more performance per dollar, performance per watt solution. So the way to think about this, Vivek, is as our business has grown, we can invest more broadly, and that'll give us, just a more optimized solution for our customers' TAMs.
Very helpful. And then, Lisa, my second question, kind of 2 or 3 interrelated question on the PC market. So what is your new sense of what the PC TAM can be this year versus what you thought before? And then I think as part of that, your competitors has mentioned several times that they're back in the market with Alder Lake, and they're taking a lot of share. So I'm wondering what you have seen there. And then finally, what's your share in the commercial market today versus what it was last year? So just something on TAM, competition and commercial exposure. Thank you.
Sure. So Vivek, when we, kind of started the year, we were thinking that the PC TAM could be flat to, let's call it down, low mid-single digits. I think given, sort of how we've started this year and then some of the other things in the market, we're taking a more conservative approach to the PC TAM. So for our modeling for the full year guidance, we're modeling something like down high single digits. Now, a lot of things can happen between now and then, so I would say that I think that's a good place for us to model. Within that, we've always been very focused on, where we can add the most value, and the premium segments, Ryzen 6000, our Rembrandt product, is extremely well positioned from a battery life or performance standpoint. We have a number of commercial, very good systems that are in the process of being launched. I think we're excited about that. To your question about commercial share, we're still underrepresented in the commercial market, and we know that, and that's a focus area for us. I think overall, from a market share standpoint, we believe we're focused in the right segments, and so even under the backdrop of, let's call it, a softer PC market, that we will, we can continue to expect to gain revenue share in the process, and that's sort of our overall strategy. But I think the other piece of it is, we have so many levers in the business now as we go forward. I think the strength in the business is, really, looking at the overall, data center portfolio, the PC portfolio, the gaming portfolio, and the Xilinx portfolio together. There are lots of levers for growth, and as we go through this year, we see that being very helpful.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Our next question today is coming from Stacy Rasgon from Bernstein Research. Your line is now live.
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking my questions. My first one, I wanted to ask about data centers. So it more than doubled last year and more than doubled again this quarter. Do you guys have the supply available to double that business again for the full year? Like if you can get and I guess if the supply is there, like, do you think it can be fulfilled?
Yeah, so Stacy, I think the data center business, particularly the server CPU business, continues to be very strong for us. I'm not going to proclaim a certain, will it double every quarter? I will say that we expect to grow very strongly over the next few quarters, and we are continuing to bring on additional supply to do that. The demand is there, and it really is, about continuing to work with our customers on that. But I think our confidence level in data center growth is very high.
Thank you. For my follow-up, I wanted to ask just a quick question on PC. So in the context of a PC market TAM that you see down or modeling down high single digits. Given your mix shifts and your share gains, do you think you can actually grow your client revenues year over year in 2022 for the full year?
Yes, Stacy. We are we are expecting that we will grow client revenues on a year-over-year basis in that time environment, and we continue to mix shift to, let's call it, the more premium segments, and so it's a revenue share statement.
Mm-hmm. Got it. But fair to say much more of the year-over-year revenue growth is things like servers and putting Xilinx aside for a minute, data center and servers and consoles more than client.
Yes, that is true. But our expectation, though, is, again, we have a number of growth drivers in the business, but in terms of what has allowed us to increase the full year guide from an organic standpoint, it is a strong visibility in server, strong visibility on the console side, strong visibility, just from a overall supply and demand perspective.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next question is coming from Aaron Rakers from Wells Fargo. Your line is now live.
Yeah, thanks for taking the questions. I'll stick to two if I can. I guess my first question is, we think about the server market and your share gains, but more importantly, we also think about the proliferation or expansion of the product portfolio. I'm curious of just what you're seeing from a competitive perspective and your thoughts around continuing to mix higher in terms of the server market, thinking about the blended ASP trends in your server business. How should we think about that as we think about Milan X, Genoa, I guess Bergamo thereafter, just that trend looking forward?
Yeah, so, Aaron, obviously it depends on the mix between cloud and enterprise, but in general, as we offer more value, let's call it more performance, more capability, we would expect our ASPs to mix up. And, in any given quarter, it's more of a, what is the cloud versus enterprise mix. But look, I'm very pleased with the fact that we're growing both cloud and enterprise, very substantially. So I think that tells you that we're growing across the entire server market. And, we're going to continue to, let's call it, optimize products so that, one, our customers get more capability and we get more value for our technology.
Yep. And then the second quick question is, on the capacity discussion, I'm curious, as you bring Xilinx into the model, you scale the business, going forward, how could we think about, flexibility from a perspective of capacity? If PCs slow down, can your capacity be fungible and move that capacity over to servers or even Xilinx capacity into server CPUs? I'm just curious of how we should think about that ability to mix across product segments as you think about your wafer capacity, agreements.
Yeah, Aaron, the way to think about that is, so, both the Xilinx portfolio and, sort of the organic AMD portfolio do use TSMC. So we are complementary there as our primary wafer supplier. We use very similar substrate suppliers as well. The Xilinx portfolio tends to be on more mature nodes, although there is some 7 nanometer. The majority of the portfolio is on 16 nanometer and above. So I would say there's not that much fungibility there. However, on the back end, on the substrate side, there is very good fungibility across the portfolio. And from the standpoint of overall supply, I think you've heard it from Devinder. I mean, we have invested significantly over the last 18 months in sort of securing the supply and capacity, and we're seeing it come online. And that's again, what I'd like to do is as you see it come online, that's when it'll go into our revenue forecast. But I feel very good about the progress that we're making, and we're continuing to dimension the company for just a much larger business, and so it's a lot of supply that we're bringing online. We're working very much with Victor and his team as well, because he has strong backlog and strong demand, and we're looking to use all of the AMD assets to also accelerate some of his builds.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question today is coming from Harlan Sur from JP Morgan. Your line is now live.
Good afternoon, and congratulations on the solid results in closing the acquisition. Lisa, the team has done a great job of supporting all the major enterprise workloads on your latest generation EPYC, and driving strong wins on the enterprise side with all of the OEM server guys out there. I'm just wondering how much of the strength in the server business is being driven by the strong enterprise design win traction? And given your pipeline of wins and orders, how big will enterprise be as a percent of your server business maybe exiting this year?
Yeah. So, Harlan, thanks. So we've made, we've made great progress on the cloud side. So we have strong adoption on internal as well as external facing workloads. We've also made strong progress on the enterprise. I mean, as you said, all major OEMs have EPYC throughout the portfolio. And in this past quarter, and in general, we've grown the enterprise business about at the same pace as the cloud business. We're still cloud weighted, but I believe that it's going to be fairly balanced growth across both portfolios.
Perfect. And then maybe a question for you or for Victor, but when I think about the embedded markets, auto, industrial, aerospace and defense, comm, infrastructure, consumer, just given the strong market position here by Xilinx, I mean, they're in a good position to catalyze EPYC attach, to catalyze Ryzen attach to their FPGA solution. So maybe Victor can help us understand, like, what percentage of Xilinx FPGA solutions in the embedded market sits next to either an x86 or high performance ARM processor, because I think that the processor opportunity in embedded is much larger than the FPGA opportunity. And I believe that embedded is a pretty small percentage of overall business for AMD. So pretty big opportunity, but wanted to get your views.
Yeah, maybe I'll take this one. I agree with you. Actually, one of the things that, many things that's really exciting since we joined AMD is we've done some customer visits, and they're really excited about exactly that point. We have a broader portfolio, and on processors, and even in some areas in the GPUs, it's also great interest. The embedded business at AMD has been selling APUs and embedded versions of both the server as well as the client kind of products. And now with the FPGAs and adaptive SoCs we really can give a much more complete solution. And so that is definitely on the menu of things in terms of revenue synergies, which we'll discuss more at the financial analyst day. But yeah, we're really excited about what we have, even with the existing products. And then, we're already working on our roadmap for, creating more value going forward. So it's great observation.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Harlan.
Thank you. Our next question today is coming from Mark Lipacis from Jefferies. Your line is now live.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. Lisa, I think maybe an easier way for investors to have thought about AMD historically, particularly more recently, is you've been successful in delivering server CPUs for data processing in the data center, and I think people, or at least I have thought about Xilinx historically doing, networking and communications solutions for base stations as well as data centers, and they've kind of moved into this adaptive computing mode where they're doing more data processing also. And I wonder, you've seen other companies with general purpose computing solutions, kind of add a communications capability. And I'm wondering, is there an opportunity for more data processing at the network edge, like say at the base station, where Xilinx has historically been really strong? And do you think the solutions, the architecture that you would have at the base station for the combination of data and communications network processing, do you think that ultimately it looks very similar to what you see deep in the hyperscale data centers, deep in the cloud?
Yeah, sure, Mark. So I think the answer is yes, and maybe I'll generalize it a bit more. We're a big believer. I mean, the whole strategy behind AMD is to have the best sort of compute engines, and then put them together, in solutions for specific end markets. So, I think our CPUs, GPUs, the FPGAs, the adaptive SoCs, and then the DPU that we're adding from Pensando, give us just a tremendous range of capability. So to your specific question, in sort of comms infrastructure, I definitely think there's a strong opportunity there. As Victor mentioned, we've been to a number of our joint large customers, and there is absolute interest